Hello, everybody. It is my great pleasure to introduce our graduated student, Linden Pohland, who was our student only yesterday, so to speak. And look at him now. Linden graduated from RIT Hospitality School in Rochester, New York, but he was also our visiting student in Dubrovnik twice. And currently, he works as an accounting manager at Hualalai Grand Resort Four Season Hotel in Hawaii. Lyndon, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming, Lyndon. It's such a great pleasure to have you back. And here's our Hannah. Hannah is our graduate. She's our soon to graduate student from visiting us from University of Technology from Brno. How are you today, Hannah?
I'm fine, thank you.
Great to have you here. So, Hannah, I will just turn over the microphone to you and please take it away.
Thank you, Professor. So, Lyndon, at least this is how we saw you when we first saw you. You seemed very interested and very seasoned, already a hospitality professional. Can you please tell us a bit about your background and why you chose hospitality?
Sure. I got started in hospitality when I was in high school, actually, and in my hometown in Wisconsin, I worked at a local burger and custard restaurant. And so I got started there, primarily doing back of house. And I started that job knowing that I wanted to get into hospitality, not exactly sure what capacity at that point. So my dad was a teacher, and he always placed a high value on education, and saw too many students that would go off to college not knowing exactly what they wanted to do, and then wasting time and money just taking general classes and not really knowing exactly what they wanted to do in their future. So in high school, he had me sit down and go through a booklet that we had received from the local state colleges of a list of majors. And I went through and looked at things and highlighted majors that looked interesting, and hospitality was something that came to the top of the list as I whittled down my options. And so I figured that to see if I liked hospitality, I should get a job in the industry. And so it helped me make some money at the time, and then also find out if I enjoyed hospitality. And I soon came to realize that I did, um, and continued to pursue that path. So I worked throughout high school at the restaurant in my hometown, and then I decided to study hospitality in college and go to RIT to study, because of the strong program that the school had, and still does, of course, and the opportunities that are provided to students. Just because of the smaller, more intimate nature of the program, there's a lot more availability for opportunities and areas to get involved. And so throughout college, I did a number of internships, starting with the Disney College program. So actually, my second semester of my freshman year, I was in Orlando, Florida, working at Disney World. I was wearing a blueberry and purplish color uniform at Restaurantosaurus. It was a quick service restaurant in Animal Kingdom. And so I was there for 6 months. Definitely quite a surprise after being in college for one semester, and then right away going off and doing an internship. But that was a great experience, and I met so many great people at Disney, and I still keep in touch with some of them. And then I also have had experience throughout college as a front desk agent at a Hilton Garden Inn. And then I was also a housekeeping supervisor at the Hershey Lodge in Hershey, Pennsylvania. So that got me solid industry experience, and helped craft a pretty solid resume coming out of college with some strong operations experience and also some supervisory experience, which in hospitality is quite valued, because obviously everyone that is in the majors looking to get into a managerial or some sort of supervisory position. And so having some of that experience coming out of college, I felt definitely helped for sure. And so that kind of that helps definitely contribute to getting where I am now. Um, So that's a bit about my background.
Cool, that sounds great. All right. So what was your hospitality study experience like? We know you studied at RIT, but you also spent a semester here in Croatia, right? And then we did join the project, something like a class together in the global classroom, the first transatlantic class in the history of RIT, and maybe the first ever in any school to celebrate the 20th anniversary of RIT Croatia. So again, the question, what was your hospitality study experience like?
It was it was a good experience overall. I'm trying to think of a word that encompasses everything because I was really lucky to have a fair number of experiences. The 20th anniversary of RIT Croatia and the Ritz dinner that was planned and coordinated that would have been my junior year. That was definitely one of the highlights. It was I studied abroad the fall of my junior year, and then in the midst of that experience found out that the Ritz was going to be in Croatia that spring, and so then I was lucky enough to go back again. And I guess looking back on that experience now and the challenges that we had in planning the dinner with having essentially two classrooms, one in Rochester, one in Croatia, with two sets of students both planning the same event. It was almost like a foreshadowing of what we have now, just needing to get used to the web technologies like we're using now that we so heavily rely on. I remember when we were doing that project, just oftentimes being like, why don't they understand what's going on over there? And I'm sure everyone on your side was thinking the same thing, like, why don't they understand what we're talking about over here? So there was, I'm sure, there were definitely struggles on both sides of it. And little did we know that now, 4 years later, we would be in this exact situation again out of necessity because of what's going on in the world today. And so it was a great experience because it was merging and it was blending and working with two different cultures, two different visions of what the dinner would look like, what the whole event would look like, um, and planning from two different sides and bringing those ideas together to fuse them together. Us in Rochester at the time having um, more of the experience having executed Ritz dinners in the past, but then from your side in Croatia, having the experience of knowing kind of what guests expect in Croatia, what events generally look like, what are kind of the norms that people are expecting there. And so kind of bringing those two sides together was definitely a challenge. But in the end made for a great event. And I think everyone really enjoyed themselves. But that was definitely an interesting experience because I was there in the fall when we had started planning things. And so I was able to help kind of facilitate some communication between students back in Rochester and students at RIT Croatia, kind of on both sides about what to expect and what was all going on at the time, visiting different spaces that we could hold the dinner at. So it was a really great experience, and like you said, maybe one of the first ever transatlantic classes, and definitely kind of ahead of its time. But in addition to that, at RIT, I had great experiences. In addition to studying abroad, I was able to go on the Dubai study trip and spend about a week and a half in Dubai, which was amazing, being able to witness the hospitality scene firsthand there and really see what luxury hospitality in Dubai looks like, where it can be almost a little over the top at times, with just the level of service and product that they offer there. And then I was offered plenty of other experiences too to travel throughout my time at RIT. I was a member of Hospitality, Financial, and Technology Professionals, and so that afforded me the opportunity of attending and speaking at the annual convention that they host. I was able to attend High Tech, which is their hospitality technology conference, with a lot of educational seminars. I was a member of Eta Sigma Delta, and so I was really lucky to be able to have a lot of travel opportunities and get to know the other students in the program and collaborate with a lot of people during my time at RIT. And I think that was really valuable because I feel often can kind of be insular and just work within the groups of people that we know, but it's good to push those boundaries and work with people in different settings and different capacities, because that's what we need to do in the industry, especially with what I'm doing now. I need to be able to interface with people in a variety of operational settings. And during my time at RIT, being able to get to know other people and work with them on different projects and maybe having varying goals and needing to align them definitely was a strong point for sure, and a highlight.
All right. You just mentioned Eta Sigma Delta Hospitality. Can you tell us something about this honor society and why you so passionately believe in its mission, so much so that you brought the chapter to RIT Croatia?
So that was I really believed in the mission of Eta Sigma Delta because the 5 pillars of the group, that something like leadership, service, ethics, forgetting the other 2 now, I'm a little rusty on the Eta Sigma Delta pillars, but I really believed in Eta Sigma Delta because it recognized it recognized the top performers in hospitality and tourism. And I felt that that was something that could only benefit students in the long run, and help individuals that were in the organization network, meet other industry professionals, and kind of set themselves on a path to distinguish themselves from others in the industry. Eta Sigma Delta is a globally recognized organization with plenty of chapters in the United States, but also some internationally. And I felt that at the time when I was on the executive board of Eta Sigma Delta in Rochester, and at the time in the spring semester before I studied abroad, we had a discussion about just kind of what the goals of Eta Sigma Delta were. And we figured, since I was studying abroad, it might be worth the time and energy, and if there was interest, to work on chartering a chapter at RIT Croatia, because it could be used as a way to foster more connection and interaction between the campuses. So not only in Croatia, being able to having RIT Croatia students network with alumni or local industry professionals in Dubrovnik, but also hopefully form some cohesion between the 2 campuses, because both campuses have hospitality programs that offer very similar curriculum, obviously within the context of the country and the region that they're working in, yet they're very similar in a lot of ways, but there's not a lot of connection and crossover between the 2. So I saw it as an opportunity that hopefully RIT in Rochester could kind of bridge the gap with RIT Croatia at the time. And so that was one of the other reasons for really really believing in the mission and wanting to bring it to Croatia. And so I knew it was definitely going to be a challenge, because here was me as a 1 semester study abroad student bringing a brand new idea, trying to charter a brand new club essentially in 1 semester, and try to ensure that it gained some sort of footing on the campus, and that it wouldn't just end up being a 1 semester, 1 year type program that would fizzle out after I left. I wanted to make it sustainable so that whoever I passed the torch to, the team in Croatia could continue carrying it on, which to this day it's still a successful chapter. It's still operating and still moving strong, which is really good to see. And I was at the time not sure how well people would buy into the idea, because again, here's an American student coming over to study abroad for 1 semester, pitching all of the RIT Croatia hospitality students who have never met me before, and now trying to encourage them to join a brand new organization that no one really has any idea about. So I was really happy to see the buy-in from the faculty, from the students, and what we were able to do as an organization. I was really proud when we were able to induct the first set of students before I left from my study abroad program. and it's great to still see it moving forward today, and continue to be a more consistent and solid bridge between the two campuses, and then also extend the spread of Eta Sigma Delta as well into new reaches of the world.
Great, interesting. Can you also tell us of your work experience prior to this job in Hawaii?
Sure. So as I kind of touched on it briefly before, but I guess to kind of explain how I wound up here in Hawaii, I think that might be possibly of interest as well. So as a member of Hospitality, Financial, and Technology Professionals, I spoke at the annual convention on a panel with two other industry professionals, as well as Dr. Keskin at the RIT campus. And we did a panel about student, industry, and academia engagement, and how those three stakeholders can work together to best prepare students for careers in hospitality, finance, and technology. And at the time, I hadn't had any hotel accounting experience. And so through that opportunity, I met the director of finance at the Four Seasons Miami. And so as I was applying for job opportunities following college, I had reached out to him, seeing if there were any opportunities within Four Seasons, because Four Seasons has the manager and training program in a variety of areas, operational areas around the hotel. So there are rooms MITs, there are food and beverage MITs, some in sales, human resources possibly. And I knew there was a finance program which I was interested in at the time. And so I reached out to him asking if he could maybe connect me with someone who could pass my application along, obviously still knowing that I needed to stand on my own merits based on my experience, based on my work ethic that I had, not looking just for into the company, just directly asking him, can you get me a job, but knowing that I would still need to go through the process of interviewing and everything. So I reached out to him, and so he passed my resume along to the regional director of finance in Dallas, Texas, who coordinates the MIT program for finance in Four Seasons. And he said that at that point, most of the MIT positions had been filled, but he thought there might have been a position available in Hawaii, and asked if I'd be interested. And so at the time, not really having anything that was tying me to a specific geographic location, I figured, why not? I'll go for it. So then after that, he passed my information along to human resources at the property where I'm currently at, the Four Seasons Resort, Hualalai. So I interviewed with human resources and then the regional director of finance at the property at the time. And then shortly thereafter, wound up here. And I ended up receiving an offer in April. I graduated in May. I was home for 2 weeks to see my brother graduate high school, and then flew straight to Hawaii. So it was a very, very quick process of getting here, but definitely well worth it. And a start to my career that I never would have imagined, but definitely one that's been extremely beneficial, because it's what I want to be doing in the industry. I had other opportunities to work in operations, but I knew that I wanted to get into finance and accounting. And I was really fortunate that Four Seasons has such a strong culture of training and developing people that they were willing to take a chance on me, someone who didn't have previous accounting knowledge at a hotel. I had taken accounting classes at RIT. I had taken a number of courses in accounting, but not actually practical experience doing it. So I was glad that they took a chance on me and afforded me the opportunity. And I guess like one thing that it really goes to show is just the power of networking, because through that experience, through knowing and being introduced to the director of finance at the Four Seasons Miami, helped get me get that first step into the company, and be on the radar of individuals within the company, which was really helpful. And that was, the other thing too, was that that was a relationship that was developed over time. Like we planned a presentation. The conference was in October. We had started that presentation probably in August, started talking about concepts for it with everyone on the panel. And I had ended up reaching out to him in December. So it just goes to show the importance of networking, and then also forming deeper connections and that and the benefits that that can bring, because that speaking opportunity came about through a connection that I had within HFTP, as well as we were chartering the chapter in Rochester. And so without getting too bogged down in the details, I think it's the one thing that I really learned from that is, because I'm not overly keen on networking events, because I'm more of an introverted person, and so it's not me to go to like large networking events and be meeting like 10, 15 people all in one night, collecting business cards left and right. I like to get to know people more and form a hopefully longer term relationship with that individual. And I think it just goes to show that the importance of forming those longer term networked relationships and forming the right relationships, is I think too often networking can be about how many business cards or how many LinkedIn connections can you make in one night or one day, whatever the case might be, rather than focusing on the quality of those relationships. Because I feel that quality ends up going further than quantity. Because having quantity, just knowing names, doesn't help, but actually having those people know you is what really makes it go the extra mile. And taking those extra steps of keeping in contact, having a continual back and forth of communication, is what really helps and is beneficial over the long run, in my opinion.
Right. As you mentioned, now you work as an accounting manager at the beautiful Four Seasons Resort at the Hualalai in Hawaii. Can you please describe the property for us?
Sure. So the property is a beast. It's a 243 room resort, which doesn't sound like a lot, but for Four Seasons, that's it's about an average, slightly larger hotel, just because of the number in the luxury setting, based on the number of staff that. If you do a calculation of staff to the guests on property, luxury hotels have because of the level of service, more staff per each guest at the hotel. And so it's a 243 room resort, but there are also, and that's the hotel part of it, with the number of outlets. We have 2 restaurants, there's in-room dining, there are 4 pools, each of which have food and beverage offerings. And in addition to that, there is a membership component as well. So Hualalai is unique. Four Seasons has residence clubs at other properties, but Hualalai is unique in that there are around 360 homes on property. So so the total, it's a very large property in total, and so we have a membership program, and so the members can buy a home, and then we have a division within the hotel which is called Hualalai Villas and Homes that acts as property management for members if they choose, and they can have their homes managed through Four Seasons and receive Four Seasons service, or they can choose to take care of their property management through a third party if they wish. Whereas other Four Seasons residence programs, when you're in the Four Seasons residence program, it's all Four Seasons. All of the services are what you'd expect at a Four Seasons hotel or resort. But in this case here, you can own a home. You don't necessarily even need to have a membership either. So you can own a home but not have a membership. Now that doesn't get you access to any of the amenities on property. So I believe a majority of the homeowners are also members. So the members are also, there are some exclusive member outlets. So there are also 2 golf courses on property. One of the golf courses is primarily for hotel guests, though members can also play on that course. but there's a golf course exclusively for the members as well. There are 2 food and beverage offerings that are also exclusive to the members. And so there's that whole component of it as well. So it was at one point it was two separate entities that have now merged into one. So we have here one of the largest operations in all of the company, just because of the combination of the resort and the homes and villas on property as well. We also have there are 8 tennis courts on property, so a whole tennis instruction program and everything. We have ocean activities as well. The list of services that we have kind of runs the gamut, and it's a beast. There's a lot to learn, especially like when first getting here, learning just what the property all does. It's a really quite impressive operation, like taking a step back and looking at it from a big picture standpoint.
Can I jump in just a little bit? Linden, we saw on YouTube and other company materials or channels that you have something like a culinary academia over there, and also tennis academy, something like that. Can you please explain what those are?
Sure. So we're currently undergoing, right now, the hotel is undergoing an extensive renovation that was just publicly announced only a couple weeks ago. And so we're right now in the process of renovating all the rooms and suites, getting prepared for the festive season when we reopen in December. But then in terms of the Culinary Academy, it's actually, that's going to be in addition to one of our restaurants. I don't know exactly how it is going to all work, the logistics of it, but it's being added to one of our existing restaurants on the second level, which will overlook the ocean, has an ocean view, and will provide the opportunity for hotel guests to learn hands-on and cook with the chefs that we have on property. And so it's an experience for hotel guests that we're all really looking forward to, and a new kind of amenity, if you will, that is going to be coming soon, and that we're really looking forward to, and expanding the culinary offerings on property. And then there's not a tennis academy, but there's a golf academy, and that recently opened earlier this year. And that has 3 bays with virtual simulators, state-of-the-art technology for golfers, food and beverage offerings there as well. And so we're members and hotel guests can be fitted for clubs right there, take lessons at the Golf Academy, and also and work with some of our instructors that we have on property, and then also use any of the simulators that we have as well in that area. And so there's it's a great new space with a lot of technology and really neat experiences all packed into one. I've been over there a handful of times. We had an outing over there when it first opened. And it's really neat how the golf pros are able to work with someone maybe on the simulator inside to start, but then some of the bays can actually open up out to the driving range, so they can be working in the simulator to start, but then it opens up out to the driving range, which is really neat. And so a new enhanced concept on the golf front as well, which is it's a really neat new offering that we have.
It sounds fantastic. Okay, can you now tell us something about your job? What do you do exactly?
Sure. So a lot of right now, while the hotel is still closed, everyone is kind of a jack of all trades right now. So a lot of what I primarily do is income audit. So specifically the day-to-day audit activities, overseeing our audit team. We have some of our audit activities are offshored. And so I oversee the daily audit activities that they're doing, making sure that all the work is completed and done in a timely manner for when we need it. And then reviewing the daily revenue report that they work on preparing, and ultimately I review it to see if we have any changes or things that need to be adjusted on there. I also work there during the month. We end up working on a lot of projects of things that are going on. So we have some new software implementations that are coming up that we're going to be rolling out with the hotel opening. Some new software that will allow the members to see their food and beverage and other checks on demand. So we're working on that installation now. We're implementing a new food and beverage system soon. So working on those kind of things during the month. But also come month end, it's all hands on deck preparing month end journal entries. So closing up the books for the month, reviewing the P&L for any research that needs to be done, which there's usually plenty to research and understand exactly what's going on, what's causing certain variances for under forecast, over forecast, because obviously right now, since the hotel is closed, there's a lot of where things are under a lot of scrutiny, looking at making sure all of the financials are as clean and tight as possible. So reviewing the P&L and following up on any adjustments that need to be made there. And then after month end, we get into balance sheet reconciliations. So balance sheet reconciliation showing what's all outstanding in all the assets, liabilities, and owner's equity accounts. So I have my share of reconciliations that I work on at month end. And then I work a lot as well with our Hualalai Villas and Homes team on we contract some third parties to do services for members, so reconciling a lot of those statements and billing on that front. And then recently I've been working on food cost, examining our food cost sheet that we currently have and tweaking it and reformatting things in a way that make it easier for the executive sous chef to see exactly where the revenue is coming in and where the food purchases are being made, whereas before it was all combined into one line for all the revenue, all the purchases total. This is helping him get a better grasp on the food cost and be able to control those costs better and understand where the areas of opportunity are. And then I've also recently been helping out our purchasing team as some of our managers have been out. And so working over there, helping receive items, receive in our purchasing system, put in some POs. So really, it kind of runs the gamut. And then there's always AP. Right now, there's a heavy focus on accounts payable, understanding and researching invoices that we need to pay, making sure that they're set for approval and to be paid. Working with our vendors, making sure that payment is coming in a timely manner as much as possible given the current business circumstances, and then reviewing new invoices that are coming in. So there's a lot going on at any given time, and I try to, being still young and quite and new still to my to accounting and everything. Just really taking in as much as I can and learning as much as I can, asking questions and making sure that I'm always learning something new and trying to push myself forward to gain a wide range of skills within the core areas within within the accounting department, because that's ultimately having knowledge of all of the variety of areas that we have within the office will help me continue to advance my career and having a wide range of knowledge.
Right. Okay. And can you explain us how different is accounting job at the luxury operation from standard hotel operations?
So I think the one thing, now having not worked in more of a standard operation and being right into the luxury operation, there definitely Four Seasons has what I've heard from other individuals that have come from other hotel companies that have been more at the been full service properties, but not luxury like Four Seasons, more of an upscale resort, is that Four Seasons has pretty stringent internal controls and standards that we abide by. And so one of the other things too is just the sheer number of outlets that we have and the various revenue streams that we have coming in. So thinking more about a more basic, simpler operation, a hotel for all hotels, of course, are going to have rooms revenue. If there's a restaurant, they're going to have food and beverage revenue. They might have, they're going to have maybe 1 to 2 outlets, possibly banquets. If they have banquet space, they might not. And that tends to pretty much cover the basics of a fairly standard operation. Here we have like 4 food and beverage outlets, both on the hotel side and the resort side, all of which have a slightly different nature of their operations. And so that, like, understanding all of those different operations, that's one part of it, just the sheer number. And then also the different revenue streams that we have. So the Hualalai Villas and Homes, the property management, that's quite unique to us in the luxury setting. Having tennis, having just the sheer number of services that we offer. And we also have a large retail component as well. So there's a lot more to understand at this level, because just when you think you have a handle on something, there's then this slight nuance that comes into it, or something else that I just never knew before until someone explained it to me. So just the sheer amount of the sheer number of outlets and revenue streams that we have really makes it different. And then also the revenue dollars that we see as well, the room rates that we're charging, the prices at the food and beverage outlets, those, and like the amount that we have, like the amount of group deposits that we're bringing in for future group business. The sheer scale of the numbers is much higher than you'd see in a standard operation. And now, making certain adjustments at high dollar amounts, it doesn't really phase you anymore. But the first time you're like, oh my goodness, I'm moving this amount of money, I need to make sure I do this right. But then you realize after doing it obviously we want to, eliminate as many mistakes as possible. But after a while, you kind of start to get numb to the fact of just the scale of the numbers and things that we're working with on a daily basis. And I think the other difference too is just the number of people that we have in our office. The property here is one of the largest accounting staffs within Four Seasons, but I'm sure it's also larger in the perspective of when you look at more of a standard or like upscale mid-tier range operation, just because of the amount of activity that we have going on the property and just the scale of the operation. I think scale and revenue streams are really what kind of sets apart a standard operation from something in the luxury sphere.
All right, thank you. And next question. At your position, you can see the whole anamnesis of operation. How do supply chains function in Hawaii, considering its relative geographical remoteness?
So it can be difficult to we need to be careful. Like if we need to bring something in from the mainland United States, we need to make sure that just check ordering lead times, especially now that we're undergoing renovation, making sure that everything is coming on schedule, and we'll make it, is making it on time so the work can continue moving forward. But other things as well, it can be difficult to source without paying an exorbitant amount for shipping, because that's one of the things that can really cause a hindrance to bringing in certain things that we need. And then also, like on a food and beverage front, right now, some of our food distributors aren't bringing in the usual selection that they have. So finding different substitutions that we can make in order to still be serving the caliber that we usually do, while still working with the inventory that our food distributors and food suppliers have. But the supply chain, it definitely it becomes a lot more sensitive, and making sure and understanding where things are coming from to make sure that they arrive on time when they're needed, because there's a lot of additional time that can go into things. That's I would say that's the major thing. But for the most part, we're very geographically remote for sure, but still able to bring in everything that we need for the most part, with the obviously exceptions here and there. But yeah, definitely there are some challenges that go into it.
All right. And what would you say, what are the major challenges and major opportunities of luxury resorts operating in Hawaii?
I think the major opportunity of luxury resorts here is the fact that Hawaii is I feel in the United States, it's kind of a almost idealized, sought after destination that a lot of people that they dream of coming to. I think partly because of its remoteness. There are plenty of beach areas and like tropical climates within the continental United States, but I think Hawaii has a certain allure just because of its remoteness, and I think that that helps. That's definitely an opportunity for luxury resorts here. I think the other thing too is that there's so much beautiful coastline here that resorts can build on, and make a really beautiful property, and have a superb operation, and make a product that's really eye appealing and interesting and catching to the people that are coming here. And there's just, given the nature of the climate here, there's a lot of opportunity for such a wide array of services that we can offer. And so I feel like that's definitely some of the opportunities. In terms of the challenges, it can be challenging to recruit staff, because we're competing with, there are plenty of other resorts all along the Kona-Kohala coast where the Four Seasons Hualalai is located. So it can be difficult in competing with staff and having and bringing in employees. That's definitely a challenge. There's lately there've been more operations that have been coming up. So there's more competitors coming along the coast here, whereas years ago, within the past fairly recent, the Four Seasons was kind of seen as the premier luxury property along the Kohala coast, which it still certainly is, but we're starting to see more competition from other luxury properties that are either have been converted or are being rebuilt. There's a resort that's actually right next to the Four Seasons. That was quite suffered a lot of damage from a tsunami in 2011. And so that property has been slowly rebuilding, and that's going to become another, I believe it's going to be a Rosewood luxury operation that's going to be opening within the next year to year and a half. There was recently another resort up the coast that underwent a renovation and is now positioned as a strong player in the luxury market. And so while the Four Seasons has always been a luxury stronghold here on the island, there's other luxury operations now cropping up and that will start to compete with us. And so it's really important that we keep our competitive advantages in the market, and that we don't stagnate, because Four Seasons is always known as one of the top brands in luxury hospitality. But it's important that we continue advancing and we don't rest on the laurels of being known as the top in luxury hospitality, because while we're relaxing on the beach maybe, while we're relaxing, there's some other competitor that's chasing after us that wants to grab hold of some of our market share. And so I think that's one of the challenges, because there's a lot of allure to build on the coast here, because it's a beautiful area. It has it's great weather conditions all year round. There's not a lot of rain. There's sun. There's sand. It's a great place for travelers, and other luxury hotel operations see that, and they also want a slice of the coast. And so I think that's one of the challenges that's starting to come up now, and we might see more impact from in the future. But obviously now, with COVID-19 and everything surrounding that only complicates matters further and changes the dynamics even more.
Yeah. You already mentioned technology. So are you afraid of automation? What changes do you see with the coming fourth industrial revolution in your area, but also in hospitality in general?
Automation is something that's always in the back of my mind, all the time, because you never know exactly what the next thing that's coming on the horizon that could possibly be automated away. So at some point, is the system going to be intelligent enough that after making all of the month-end journal entries, it will be able to just move all the data into our reconciliation management software for us? Who knows? It's hard to say exactly what's coming, and how to stay ahead of it. So it's always in the back of my head. Am I afraid of it? Not to a degree, yes, but also I still feel that especially when it comes to the decision making, machines are very good at, right now, from my understanding, very good at spitting out data, and compiling things and looking at things in different ways that might be too complex for someone to compute or put multiple data sources together on their own. So it's good at coming up with different scenarios and things, but I feel that the decision making, there still needs to be a human aspect in that, and that the decision making that technology hasn't progressed quite that far to the point where automation can come up with, let's say, 4 different forecast scenarios, for example, and then choose the best one. Now, it might be able to, but I still think there needs to be some sort of human aspect in decision making and managing. And so I feel that a lot of that things might automate and take away the basic rudimentary processes that we're doing on a day-to-day basis, the very basics and foundations of things that are important to understand, but those might be swept away. But I think that a lot of the decision making will still need to be need to be made by humans, at least in the near term future. Now, in the long term future, there's plenty of smart technologies that are only getting smarter and good at making decisions. I think that technology in hospitality is an interesting subject and something to consider, because hospitality, I feel, was kind of built on the hallmark, like the hallmark of it, and the foundation is people providing service to others and the connection between people. That, I guess I haven't done a lot of research into this, but I'd be interested in knowing, how do people feel connecting with machines, if you will? Because I've heard of that they're like robotic, like they're robot concierge systems, and so you can do whatever planning you might need to do with a robot. There's now, express and mobile check-in that you don't even need to stop at the front desk. There are food and beverage operations that are seen now widely at airports, where you order off a tablet and you don't interact with anyone to get your food, to do any ordering, things like that. I guess how much human interaction do people want removed from the equation? Because I feel hospitality is the human element of it is quite fundamental. But I feel that technology will also impact different operations differently. So like on the luxury scale, I feel that people might be more interested in having that human connection, because I know that a lot of our guests here come back year after year after year, and they enjoying seeing some of the people that they have come to know year after year after year, be it a server at one of our restaurants, the front desk agent that usually checks them in. They have formed those connections. So how would they feel if that person that they came to know and they got to know at the restaurant, and that they would check in maybe about their kids or whatever the case might be, just having that connection? How comfortable would they be with now showing up at the restaurant, knowing on their phone which table is theirs, exactly where it is, because they can use their phone camera to see like an augmented reality scene that maybe shows, I don't know, their table number, for example. They sit down, input their order into an iPad. I guess, do people want that? And I think that's something, I think that's something important to consider and understand as technology progresses. But I feel that we might see more technology integrate into business travel more so than leisure travel, because just inherent in leisure, people are not, for the most part, unless you have a highly planned vacation, you're generally not going from like one thing to the next. Like you have a schedule exactly planned out to the minute for you of what you're doing, where you have some flexibility. You're on vacation, you want to relax, get away from, your scheduled routine of everyday life. Whereas business travelers, they want things more on demand, quick, everything. Like they're going to business meetings. They want that, they only have a certain amount of time for that meal. So maybe the case of, all electronic ordering is going to be more appealing to those kind of people. But I think it will impact different sectors differently, and I think with time will we start to see it. Because I feel that also, one last thing on the topic, that I think there's almost a delay. I feel within hospitality, there's a longer delay than other industries in seeing technology being developed and technology being implemented in operations. That it takes time for the industry to evolve. I feel like it's, from some of the technologies and things that I remember seeing when I attended High Tech, which is a large hospitality technology expo with tons and tons of up and coming technologies in the industry. There's a delay between what's being developed there and when we're seeing those things in hotels. And I feel the hospitality industry still has a way to go as well in building some of the fundamental core technologies and really mastering those technologies before layering on additional things like AI, augmented reality, voice assistants, those kind of things. And also hotel companies getting on board with those technologies. It takes time, understanding the understanding how they work, understanding vulnerabilities. Like if considering voice assistants, Four Seasons is somewhat hesitant to put voice assistants in in rooms, just given all like the wide array of things that you can ask a virtual assistant and get an answer for. That do you want that in a hotel room? Are people concerned with that kind of thing always listening to you? So there's certain technologies that I feel that take time to evolve, where developers are great at getting an initial concept out there, but then hotels kind of take time, and it takes time to kind of ingest all of that and figure out how to implement that in an operation. But I feel overall the hospitality industry slightly lags with technology implications and implementation.
All right. Interesting. So can you please explain to us how COVID-19 was felt in Hawaii? We heard that tourism effectively shut down in March, only to be shyly tested as of this week.
Yeah, so that's Hawaii was really the effect of COVID was felt very strongly here. Now, the number of cases in terms of the local population has been quite low. There have been some spikes, but overall the local population has been doing well. But tourism has suffered very severely. Like you mentioned, tourism effectively to the state shut down at the end of March, when the governor implemented a 14-day quarantine for any incoming travelers to the state. So obviously no one is going to come for a 1-week vacation and have to stay in their hotel room for that entire time, or extend their vacation to 3 weeks, stay in their hotel room for 2 weeks, and then finally be able to do things around the island on their 3rd week. So that wasn't exactly going to work. And so that's when hotels started to close. And also we started to see much more limited travel at that point as well. So in March, the travel quarantine was put into effect. And then there was also an inter-island travel quarantine as well. So anyone traveling between the islands also had to quarantine for 14 days. And it wasn't until June that we saw the announcement of a pre-arrival testing program. And that idea, the concept was put out there, but and with a tentative reopening date of August 1st. But then because of increased local spread of COVID, the testing program got delayed by a month each time. And so things ended up just getting pushed further and further back till eventually state government decided on October 15th as the official start of the pre-arrival testing program. So that entails so that any traveler coming to Hawaii that wants to avoid the 14-day quarantine needs to get tested within 72 hours of traveling and be able to provide a negative test result upon arrival, or they quarantine until their negative test result comes through. Each island is working through the regulations slightly differently, which is interesting. So the governor has put out the mandate that the pre-travel testing program will go into effect, but then the mayor of each county was able to come back with their own specific proposals of what they wanted to do on their islands. So here we have, after travelers arrive, there is everyone is required to take a rapid test. And so they take a rapid test at the airport, and that was all rolled out on October 15th. And things were definitely, from what I heard and read about, quite congested at airports on the first day, but things are, the kinks are slowly getting worked out, because the arrival rapid testing was not announced until like 2 days before the plan going into place. So the ultimate planning for the implementation of things was done in a quite short window, and so there's still plenty of kinks in the system that are still being worked out, but we're starting to see increased air arrivals now. And so there are more people coming back to the islands. The number of members that are on property has gone up quite significantly over the past 2 weeks, and things are starting to come back. But because of the continual delay of things, a lot of hotels are not opening until either mid-November or early December. So it's gonna take a little time, but I think it's good that we give it a little time to get some of the kinks worked out in the system, so that things are fully operational and working by the time that that December and festive rolls around, so that people that are coming to the islands can have a good experience from the time that they set foot on the island throughout their entire experience here. So it's taken us COVID's taken a huge toll on the economy as well, considering, I mean, prior to the pandemic, Hawaii had one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country, whereas now we have quite near the top unemployment rate, just because of the reliance on tourism in the state, and which has also led to calls among the local population, local lawmakers to expand the economy and look at opportunities outside of tourism as well. Because while it is an important part of the economy, it's difficult to be reliant on one sector so heavily. And then one last thing to mention is that, as the mainland started to see a decrease in cases, a lot of hotels were started talking about, a summer road trip, which obviously here it's a little hard to do a road trip when we're an island. So enticing and encouraging people to take trips with, and have it make a road trip. It's a little difficult here when everyone needs to get on a plane to come here. So I feel like despite the mainland has definitely had more cases than we've had here, but despite having more cases, they also have a bit easier things. There's easier mobility to be able to at least restart tourism in some capacity, at least limited capacity, whatever that might look like. But now, while the mainland has started to recover, tourism has started to recover, we're first starting now on that path.
Yeah. All right. And according to COVID-19, what does your crystal ball, budget, tells you in terms of the planned revenue? What do you think the impact will be in the next year?
So I anticipate things to be slow going for a while still, just because of still concern over coronavirus and traveling, especially since a flight from LA to Hawaii is 6 hours. So minimum, someone is traveling 6 hours, and there could be some concern among individuals that want to travel here. So I think that will somewhat contribute to lower occupancies. And then also, one of the things that a lot of hotels rely on, and we do here, is building back the group business. That's a large part of the room's revenue, and forming that group base, and then putting the transient travelers on top of that. And so we've been making good strides in building back group business, but it definitely is definitely still a work in progress as we continue to move forward into 2021. But exactly what it will look like, it's hard to say, because cases, you know, we can plan as best as possible as what we think is going to happen, and you know what groups we have on the books, how many leisure travels, transient guests we can have that are going to be coming in at any given time. But it's hard to say with what's happening, because unfortunately, you know, cases in the US they've spiked, they've declined, now we're seeing an upward trajectory again. So how will rising cases on the mainland end up impacting us? Will we see you know, a point where cases start to, which I hope we don't see this, but there's the very likely possibility that cases start to rise too much on the mainland. People are coming here, possibly bringing COVID with them, start infecting the local population, and that starts to become more of a problem. So it should be, I feel like right now it's a very, especially like with the pre-travel testing program and how everything is working, and just considering that, you know, the route to get here is through air travel. It's kind of like turning off like a hose. How much water, how many tourists and people should we let back in before we realize that it could be a problem, and that we're starting to see an increase in cases again that would require the mayor or the governor to say things are getting too out of hand, our health resources are too strained, we need to cool down tourism again for the time being, and kind of put things on hiatus, if you will. So it's difficult to fully grasp exactly what the next year might look like. And you know, this is kind of a recession-like time for us. And so looking back to, you know, what happened in 2008, 2009, when there was a recession in the US, it can be helpful in planning, but at the same time, we're dealing with a pandemic on top of a recession, which only complicates matters. But I think for us to be able really to stick with the budget and be able to achieve the revenues that are planned for the year, it's going to be a careful dance of making sure that, yes, we're letting tourists back in, but at the same time, we're being careful and cautious to make sure that cases aren't starting to skyrocket among the local population. I think that's one of the difficult balances, and of course, we're kind of at the mercy of the state and local government, dependent on what kind of restrictions they put in place.
Right, thank you. Now back to you. What are your future plans, and do you have any regrets for choosing this profession?
I don't have any regrets for choosing hospitality. I'm happy with what I chose to end up doing and getting into accounting. In terms of future plans, I for now hope to continue moving up within Four Seasons and into higher roles in accounting and finance, but possibly in the future, maybe pivot into another aspect of hospitality finance, maybe get into asset management, or work at a corporate level. I think that those two areas could be interesting opportunities. Maybe look into hospitality, real estate, or development. I like to keep my options open, and I'm curious, want to learn new things and apply and learn skills in a variety of areas. So I could see branching out in the future. But I think, yeah, I don't have regrets for what I chose to study and for what I chose to get into, because I think, you know, regretting the decision that I made to study hospitality or get into this career and this path, I feel like I'd only be miserable all the time. That if I had that much regret, I would regret 4 years of my life of college, and now 2.5 years of working here. And now, granted, there might be automation that changes the nature of things that I'm doing, or this pandemic that's, you know, impacting everyone. these are all unforeseen things that that you don't always see coming. Like no one figured at the beginning of 2020 that we were going to have a pandemic that would shut down tourism around the world for an extended period of time. It was not expected. So I think to have like regrets and be like, oh, why did I get into this now? Because I could be unemployed because I'm in hospitality and it's a sector that's really suffering right now. I mean, there could be the next, who knows what could happen next could impact someone, it could impact other sectors. Um, so I think that, there's hardship that comes through any career at any point. And I don't have regrets over what I'm doing, because otherwise I'd be miserable, and I'm not miserable, that's for sure.
Great. Okay. And here we have the last question. What is important? Why is it important to study hospitality, and what can hospitality teach us about the world?
I think it's important to study hospitality because it is such a large industry that drives a lot of economies, and drives a large portion of of economic activity in the world. I think it's important from that standpoint. I think it's important to study hospitality too, because you can start to gain an appreciation and an understanding of other cultures. I mean, like yourself, studying, like coming from the Czech Republic and now studying in Croatia, there are differences in anywhere that you're going. Even like if it's, whether like if it's like I'm going across the Atlantic to come study, or if it's moving somewhere more regionally, there's still differences and cultures to be understood. And I feel now, especially with so much of what's going on in the world outside of hospitality and just like the global geopolitical sector in general, I think there needs to be more cultural understanding of people. Because I mean, whatever career someone ends up moving into within hospitality, I feel like we're all destined to come into contact with someone that is of a different culture, has different beliefs, different values, whatever the case might be. That's someone that's different from us. And so being able to understand that, I mean, at the very core tenets of hospitality is understanding someone else's needs, more or less, and being able to deliver on that. At the very basic core of service is being able to understand that. And so I think that that's it's important to that's one of the main things, an important important for it. And I guess another kind of I guess maybe selfish, but I guess it's also important too. I mean, just for the travel opportunities as a hospitality student as well. I mean, I was able to travel internationally. I did plenty of domestic travel as well during my time studying hospitality, and just had a lot of opportunities to travel, see new places, see new things, meet new people, which was great, because at the core of hospitality is travel as well. So that was I feel like I mean, it helped me see a number of new places. I remember at one point when I was studying, I think I was taking a trip like in one of my semesters. Like I took 4 trips in like each trip like 2 weeks apart or something. So I was able to travel quite a bit, which was really unique and cool to see. And then, what can hospitality teach us about the world? I think just that, how to take care of other people and understand, have an understanding of other people. And I think, it's important to have that understanding, understand different cultures and understand service. But at the same time, like one of the biggest things that I advocate for, and I'm so glad that I did, was kind of complement my hospitality experience and education with the accounting knowledge that I had, because it's important to understand the core tenets of hospitality. But I think to really have to open yourself up to a lot more opportunities. It's important to complement the core of hospitality with other sectors that complement the industry, like accounting, data analytics, design, technology. It's all an important part of it, because while hospitality is, it's, you know, the core is important, I think it's also important to have a specialty within hospitality, and to learn and be able to learn, like, know a different field that complements hospitality, because operations is important and key to the business, but by having another skill on top of the core operations that hospitality teaches, you can open up your opportunities, kind of like how I was able to open up my opportunities through having some accounting background, and get into what I'm doing today. So I think, yeah, I think that's why it's important to study hospitality and learn more about the world through it.
All right. Linden, thank you for important speech. Thank you. It was very nice.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad that we were able to have this interview, and I'm glad that I could be a part of it.
This was very, very, very wonderful. Linden, thank you so much. We almost, when we listen to you, I don't know about Hannah, but we almost forget how young you are, because there is just so much depth with wisdom, connections, long-term thinking, complex thinking coming from your side. So it's always a treat to talk to you and to learn from you. And I can say that having been your professor, it was a great pleasure, because I believe that I learned as much from you as you hopefully learned from me. And Hannah, no one would say that this was your first interview.
Thank you.
Right. All right. So thanks everybody for watching, and I'll stop recording now.